Welcome to part 3 of the Skyline History Tour. In part 2, we covered carved stone, crematorium, and caves. We then located a major tourist attraction from the 1880s. This final video is about odds and ends, especially loose ends. First thing is the Thatcher Rimrock Trail. This steep trail ascends Sugarloaf Mountain. Now, after doing all this research on the asylum, I wondered, was Thatcher a patient who wandered the hills? Or maybe a former landowner? This trail is named after Ken Thatcher. He was part of the original group that built the Skyline Trails back in the early 1980s. Look him up sometime. He lived an exceptionally adventurous life. And Thatcher Rimrock was quite an ambitious trail of his. As you can see, horses were employed to carry the trail tools up the hill. Second, over by the Martha Walker Garden are these concrete pads. We like goofing off on them on our bikes. It's funny, but these are where the asylum chicken coops were kept. The Skyline Association once considered turning them into shuffleboards. And our third loose end is whatever the heck this is. My biggest disappointment during this entire project was that I didn't find a lick of information on this building. But let's do a quick little exploration and see if we can figure it out. So you have a building with 3 chutes. It looks like you'd load up the hopper, maybe hang a container below, and then discharge the contents into it. They appear to be hand-operated, but the handles are beyond my reach. So maybe there used to be a raised platform here? Across the way is a gully with some rusted equipment in it, including a lot of metal wire. And if you follow this gully out a ways, there are the remains of a brick structure. Someone in an online forum suggested this might have been an ore furnace. So could this be related to mining activity? You guys know what it is?
Oh no, do you?
No.
I was just guessing like a coal chute.
Yeah. I thought, yeah.
It seems like to get rid of something.
I like those answers. Let's ascend the hill behind the building. Let's see if there's anything up here. Oh wow. There's a retaining wall maybe? Okay, let's get a closer look at this thing. So this is really interesting. I don't know what it is, but somebody might. Reverse Google image searches on this thing are useless. Believe me, I've tried. My husband thinks it's a winch. I think it might be a spool for a belt. If it used to spin, it sure doesn't now. I turned around and looked inside the building. There's a great clue here. It has partitions. That means each chute was meant to dispense something different. The floor slopes downwards, which would make whatever material that was in here slide towards the opening. There's also a slide here pointing towards the middle unit, and something was bolted onto this pedestal. The spool lies directly behind it. There's another pedestal here. Something bolted up here. Something big. These are some big bolts. Let's keep climbing.
Okay, let's see if we can get a little higher. Huh. Oh, there it is.
Back here is Old Lake Como, interestingly. The proximity to Lake Como doesn't seem like an accident to me. One theory I'd suggest is that when Lake Como was being excavated, some ore of value was discovered. The rocks were directed over to this building, where they were broken down and sent down the chutes. Or the rocks were crushed to make bricks. According to Preston Airy's book, all of the bricks for the castle were made on site. Perhaps this facility is where they crushed the rock to be baked into bricks. This diagram of an old granite crushing plant is the closest thing I've been able to find to this building. With this device, crushed rock was conveyed to the barrel above, and then would tumble through different sized holes and fall out at different places. The chutes below would then dispense different sized gravel. If you happen to know what this is, please share it below, because I'm sure many people, including myself, would love to know the answer. I have one final topic, and it might be the most important. There was a point when this project took on a life of its own, and it led me in a direction I never expected. Let's go back to the crematorium. Remember we said it started operating in 1924. Well, what happened before 1924? Patients who died at the asylum were buried on the hospital grounds. The official number of patients buried on site is 4,368. Where might they be located? Turns out that information is hard to come by. Only a small number of articles touch upon this subject, and here's what they say. A woman looking for the grave of a relative who died at the asylum initially was met with a royal runaround. Since the last patients were buried there in 1924, the site has been stripped of markers and treated shabbily, its original use forgotten. At Napa State, the only cemetery sign is a low granite marker at a wrong location further up the road. Fortunately, there's a clue to the site of the burials in the Napa Valley Register article from 2008. A ground-penetrating radar survey was conducted in a field behind the hospital in order to locate the patients buried there. The picture in the article shows a man holding the results of the survey. Behind him is the field in which the survey was conducted. The building off in the distance is outlined in his printout, and as you can see, the burials are very dense on either side of it. I didn't recognize this building, but it has a distinctive feature. It has two round red chimneys. I looked for something like this on Google Maps, and here it is. It's located on Madrone Drive at the back of the hospital. We decided to take a look. I doubt that entering this area is encouraged, but the gates were open and no signs prohibited entry. You can tell this road was once a beautiful promenade connecting the castle to Lake Camille and the Hermitage beyond. It's lined with majestic trees that bore witness to the asylum's early years. Near the end is where the two-chimney building was located. As I approached the building, I experienced a little excitement at first. Followed by dread. It was so quiet back there, and I was alone in the back of the hospital with this decrepit building, surrounded by a couple hundred unmarked graves. And as I approached the building, there was, I hate to say it, the smell of rot. I don't have an explanation for that, but it sure got my imagination going. And on a second visit, there was no odor in the area other than a faint whiff of sulfur, so maybe there's a sewer line nearby, or a diesel generator. But what has truly haunted me in the days and weeks after this are the thoughts of the patients buried there. The terrible hand they were dealt, and how different their lives could have been. I'm sure they didn't imagine an end to their stories like this. Buried in unmarked graves, under rubble and yard waste, beside an old shack. Now what about the granite marker?
Oh, look.
About 500 feet up the road is where we found it.
So there is, I read about this, but it's in the wrong place.
Oh, really?
You'll miss it if you blink. Behind it is a large field. More piles of yard waste out there, as well as some ruins. Now, it's been said that it's in the wrong place, but I don't buy that. I bet this little memorial is quite central to the old burial ground. Here's the field containing between 200 to 250 patients by my count. That leaves at least 4,000 patients unaccounted for. Here's the memorial. From this, I infer that the actual extent of the burial ground might be closer to this. How does this get rectified? It's complicated, because even if the hospital had records on the location and name of every person out here, this information couldn't be simply made public. Patient confidentiality remains paramount. There used to be wooden grave markers, but they rotted or were removed during maintenance of the grounds. After 1924, this land was used as a dairy farm and as a pig farm. Cattle were grazed on it, and animal remains interred here. All I know is that right now, this place needs a little love. We can do better than this. We need to do better than this.